Good evening, beautiful people. Welcome back to Off the Record, but on my mind. Today, we're going to be diving into a topic that touches countless lives, but too often stays in the shadows: addiction and substance abuse. This conversation matters because behind the statistics are real people, family, and communities struggling with pain, resilience, and hope. My guest today has lived through this journey and brings a perspective that helps us better understand addiction, challenge misconceptions, and highlight the path towards recovery. Together, we'll explore the struggles, the stigmas, and the support that can be made while we're healing. Before I even ask my first question, I just want to make sure that we're crystal clear on this. This gentleman that I have in front of you right now is someone that has been a fixture in my adult life. He and I go back over 25 plus years. He and I have both seen each other at high heights and at our lowest points, and we were always transparent, always vulnerable with one another. And even when we didn't have a reason to trust each other, we trusted each other with stuff like we're brothers. So he goes by many names, but today I want to introduce to you all David Thomas.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you for being here. I just wanted to first and foremost just say thank you for showing up and being willing to be transparent with a topic such as this. You, like other people that know my journey, know that I've had a struggle with substance abuse and with drug and alcohol abuse, but not as a person that personally struggled with it, but has been impacted by it from childhood through early adulthood and even into my adult life. As I've been candid on many occasions, my mother battled with addiction, and it was something that really shook me to the core of who I was. And one of the things that this is going to help for me to do is just going to help me to kind of get a little bit more of a clearer picture of what things probably looked at on her end, and maybe I can let go of some of the judgments that I passed. But then, more importantly, just be able to understand what it is that happens. Because in our community, there are lots of individuals that are just dismissed and dehumanized by being called smokers or crackheads or clucks or whatever it is that we call them. But they're always somebody's mother, somebody's father, somebody's brother, somebody's son, somebody's daughter. And I just want to make sure that as we make our way through this such a difficult topic to talk about, that we don't glorify the lifestyle, but we actually recognize that the lifestyle is prevalent in our community.
Yes, it is.
And then also give people that just don't have any experience with this and understanding of how substance abuse battles, and it hurts not only the abuser but the people that are around them. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that we do this some justice. And so people in the audience viewing, we're going to start his journey. Although he's had a wonderful and magnificent up and down life up to this point, I wanted to start his journey the moment that he decided that he was going to engage in whatever his preferred substance was, because I feel like the moment that you have that very first high starts a whole new chapter in your life. And so I want to give you an opportunity to kind of reflect on that. So my first question to you is, can you share your journey with addiction and how it's impacted your life from the moment that you decided to use your preferred drug of choice or drugs of choice?
Okay. Well, uh, for just to keep it all the way 100, my preferred drug of choice is methamphetamines, you know, which I used to affectionately call meth and friend of mine because that was my go-to. I always had it. You know, I wasn't one of those people who, was scrounging around to get it. You know what I'm saying? I had plenty of it. But my first encounter really was unexpected. You know, I was in my second marriage, and you know, uh, things were kind of falling apart. You know, and my ex-wife, you know, what I'm saying, bless her soul, she's clean today. You know what I'm saying? She offered it to me. You know, um, and she she basically said, hey, listen, this is what I've been doing because she had been disappearing and all kinds of stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't sure what was going on, you know, and she came to me and said, listen, this is what I've been doing. And she crunched up a line of looked like some crank, you know, and rolled up a dollar bill and snorted that line. And she's like, you want to try it? And so I rolled up the dollar bill, you know, and this is on a CD case, you know, so this is how long ago this is, maybe about 2003. And and I hit that little line, and it felt like my brain was being pulled out through my nose. You know what I mean? It was, and my eyes started watering, and it was the worst pain in my life. Followed by, very shortly, followed by the best feeling ever. It was like I used to say, damn, I know this shit. Why this shit is illegal? Because if this is you're not supposed to feel like this. You're not supposed to feel this good. And it was like right after that, we were off and running. I started losing. I wasn't eating. I was staying up all the time. I was at the end of my tour on shore duty. You know what I'm saying, and going into sea duty, and it's like it worked to get us back together for about 2 weeks, and then things started to fall apart again, and I went to I ended up confiding in a chief, and we were at the range at Point Magoo, and I confided in a chief, and he was like he told me, he said, listen, I'm going to move you back into the barracks. He said, you're not going to tell anybody, you know, you're supposed to get kicked out for this, and if I'm going to check on you every day, and if I look at you and you look like you're high or anything like that, it's going to be me and you in that barracks room. And that allowed me to make it until I went on my next deployment to Japan. You know, when I went to Japan, there was no stuff, so I was kind of like I got clean. You know what I mean? I'd only been using for maybe about 3 months, maybe 4 months, and I had lost a bunch of weight, and I was okay for a long time. I was okay for a long time, and then I went to I got out of the military. Excuse me. I got out of the military, and it's funny because drugs are just a symptom of addiction. Addictive behaviors happen long before you ever, pick up a drug. You know what I mean? My financial irresponsibility, my willingness to cheat on things and like cut corners and just, always wanting the quick way, the easy way out. That those are like behaviors of addiction. And I basically I started committing armed robberies. After I got out of the military, I really didn't have. I got into a situation where I was in like short on finances. My ex-wife was in prison. You know what I mean? I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna start robbing shit. So I ended up going to prison for a bank robbery. You know, I do almost 3 years in prison, and I get out, and I hook up with my ex-wife again, and we get high. You know, I don't keep getting high even at that point, but like it kind of like those feelings, like they kind of write a memory. You know what I'm saying? Because you have these feelings that are so good and they're so intense. You know, and it wasn't until later on I started going to college, maybe like 2 years after that. I started going to college. I started going to college for addiction studies of all things. And I met a girl on Tinder, and uh, she turned out to be a prostitute, but she needed a place to stay, so she came to stay at my place. I was a gym rat at the time. I'm saying fresh out of prison. I'm built up. You know what I mean? I feel, I definitely looked the part. And uh, basically, she's like, hey, I bet you I could suck that thing for 3 hours. I'm like, no, you can't. She says, hit this. She pulls out a pipe. I hit it, and oh my God, that was the end. It was over with. My addiction was compounded with a sex addiction. You know, from that time forward, you know what I mean? It was like both of them hand in hand. So it's like a double battle, and it brought me places that I never thought that I would go. You know what I mean? Between trying to be a pimp and like you know, a chimpanzee can't sell bananas. You know what I'm saying? You know, I can't be pimping some girl when I'm trying to fuck all the time. It's not gonna work out like that. You know? So like I end up I like I end up getting into all kinds of issues and problems, and then I just start wilding out, you know, and I just I don't know, like my journey just like my journey began. I started committing fraud. You know what I mean? I'm sleeping with all kinds of women. I start sleeping with transgender women. I start uh, I went off the hook, you know, and all in the name of getting a feeling, trying to satiate this drive that's being caused by these chemicals that you're putting in there, and it's insane. It's impossible to fight off, you know, and it's when I think about it, I'm lucky. Like I'm so lucky because I'm able to like I found a system that works for me, but you know, I'm able to manage, you know what I'm saying, being clean right now. You know what I mean? And I found a way to like discover that I'm powerless over it, and that I can if I just surrender and like understand that this drive that chemical is too strong for me. That shit is way stronger than your boy, you know, and like I have to give it up, you know, in order for me to function as a human being, you know.
Okay, and so with that being said, let's hover over two things before we move forward with the conversation. Two things. One, historically in the black community, the drug of choice or the preference of choice or proximity used to be heroin, a little bit of cocaine, and then it we were hit hardest by crack cocaine. My first curious question to you is: A, were you aware of what crystal meth was when your ex-wife presented it to you? And if so, what was your interpretation of crystal meth up to that point?
I was so naive. I was very naive. You know what I mean? You know, try to explain to an ant what a gorilla is. You know what I mean? Like maybe you come up with your own concept in your mind, but until you experience it and understand like that, it's like this internal thing. You know what I'm saying? It's you know, I thought I knew, but I didn't know. I thought that people just stayed up on it, that you were just awake. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really understand the feeling. They just say it feels good, and then when I found out what good is, well, you know, I wasn't ready.
Okay. There's another nuance I want to tap on. You made the statement that upon actually taking the drug through the pipe and with fire, accompanied by the opportunity to have sex, you said that two things simultaneously happened. One, you had this chemical rush that was brought forth by the actual consumption of the drug, but then
Yeah.
you referenced the sexual addiction part. What I, in particular, have always wondered is why is it that drugs and sex go hand in hand? Is it that there's a component within the chemicals that kind of unlock that sexual appetite, or is it just because, to speak in plain terms, now that you're going down the lane of sin, all sins are created equal?
No, so first of all, like uh morality has no bearing, has no ain't no room for it when that chemical gets inside of you. You know what I'm saying? That thing is in charge. That thing is in charge, and like so with methamphetamines, it activates your like adrenaline, so all of your senses are heightened. So since all of your senses are heightened, the things that feel good feel really fucking good. You know what I'm saying? It's and like you don't. It's not something that you could ever experience normally. You know what I'm saying? So like it, it's like once you have something that good, and then you try to go back to like the way things were, you're like, nah. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I'm gonna go ahead on. You know what I'm saying? And and then like yeah, it definitely isn't the moral issue. Basically, to answer your question, it is within the chemical. You know what I'm saying? I think they call it a sympathmomimetic drug. You know what I'm saying? Because it activates your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that like heightens your like that pleasure is real strong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's like you'll do whatever to feed that.
Okay. And so you, because you made reference of dabbling in some pimping, some street pimping,
Yeah.
I want to ask your opinion from a person that don't, not only participated in that particular, um, I won't even say a career, but that particular hustle,
Mhm.
and you've had the ability to be around women and John's individuals, all three phases of that particular type of lifestyle. Would you say that because it seems like lots of women in particular that get involved in prostitution inevitably choose drugs as a other thing to place onto their plate, would you say it comes from them trying to escape whatever reality they're living, or is it more what you said, that because that drug seems to amplify things, that's just a no-brainer? Like, hey, if I'm gonna be doing this, I better have the best possible fucking experience I could ever have. Do you think it's more
Ooh,
of a running
I
away
think that
from?
I think that I think that I think that man, what it takes to make a prostitute, man, it's like a lot. A lot of them girls are in some serious pain. You know what I mean? And one thing that I know as far as crystal meth does is it makes you not care about anything. Anything that you're worried about or care, you like, yeah, it's not really all that important no more. You know what I'm saying? What's important is what you're doing and what you and satiating the feeling that you want to achieve. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
As far as my experience goes, now different people have different things. Some women, they are prostitutes because they love it. You know what I'm saying? They will tell you, I do this because I love to fuck. You know what I'm saying? They will straight up tell you, and some people say, you know what I'm saying, they're like, ew, no, I don't, you know what I'm saying? And some women won't do it while they're working because they don't want to get lost in the sauce and get cheated because they're doing it for the money. You know what I'm saying? So they don't want that to be a part of it, you know. And some women do it for the escape, you know. Uh, I think that you just have to figure out which type of woman you're dealing with because, at the end of the day, people are people, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so here's a curious question from the 10-year-old little boy in me that I
okay.
always wondered. Having had an experience where my mother was engaged in prostitution and hardcore substance abuse and alcohol abuse, and seeing through that lens, not understanding all of these great things that you're doing to expand and extrapolate upon the whole process of going through this drug journey, what I knew on my side and what I wondered was, what is it that is causing my mother to not see how much she's negatively impacting me? Because I can remember at some point during the day, some days she would be in her sober right mind, and she had lots of semblance of the mother that I knew and I loved before the drugs. But I came to know and understand when she was under influence because she would change. And so I suspect that's what you're talking about, that you don't give a fuck or things just don't matter. My question to you, because I've always known you from the day I met you, you were already a family man. You were
Mm-hmm.
already a husband with two young children at that point in time when we met in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we progressed and got to know each other, you had two more by the time you and I had rekindled and we were good to go. So my question to you is, with having four children to think about, but having this newfound horse, this new monkey to kick off your back, talk to us a little bit about whether or not you understood how that was impacting your children, or were you able to successfully keep that away from them? And if so, how?
There was no success anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Success didn't. Success was a figment of my imagination. I thought that I was successful because I had lots of money coming in. I had cars. I had a driver. I made like I did all. But you know what? I could never be around my kids because I was smoking dope, and I didn't want them to see me high. You know, even though they did see me high, but I didn't want them to. But I didn't want them to. You know, have too many to like really see me high, you know. So you know what, and then I was in and out of jail and prison, you know. Like I sometimes it would come to a point where I wouldn't talk to them the whole time I was out, and then when once I came down and I was in jail, and I wake up after the first 3 days of sleep, and I wake up and I realize that like my about what they must think, that like like it all like when I tell you it makes you not give a fuck, you it blocks out everything. But once that wall starts coming down and you go to sleep for a few days and you wake up and you're able to like start thinking about the wreckage of your disease, the wreckage of your actions, like it comes in like a tidal wave, you know, and it's hard to contain. And I would go to that phone in the county jail and call up and be crying and boo-hooing, and then that one time turned to two times, turned to four times, turned to six times, turned to I don't want to talk to him again. I don't want to talk to my dad. I don't want to talk to him. What is he in jail again? Well, tell him don't drop the soap. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, so you know, man, I thought that I thought that I was successful because of money, but it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I, you know, once I finally made it back to my mother's, and I like, uh, man, I can only describe it as God sent me somebody who I used to sell drugs with and everything else. She's clean now, and she said, hey man, why don't you why don't you try going to a meeting? You know, why don't you just try being clean? Like if you don't like it, like everything is still gonna be here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, give it a shot. You know, and then I started realizing all of the stress that I caused my children. That all of every single day they know they have a father. Every you know what I'm saying? And I wasn't thinking about that for years, for almost 10 years. You know, I wasn't thinking about that, you know, and it made me feel very ashamed, very guilty. You know what I mean? And and that wasn't a feeling that was foreign to me, but it's like when I was in my addiction, I would start to feel those feelings, and I felt like I was too far in. I had no excuse for being away for so long. I had no excuse for not contacting them for months and months and months at a time. I had no excuse, no good excuse, other than Daddy gets high on drugs. That's the only thing that I could think of, that, and I wasn't willing to come to terms with that, or to out that, you know. So I stayed away, and in 1 year turned to 2 years, turned to 5 years, turned to 6 years, turned to 8 years, you know, uh, and then it took me finally finding recovery.
Okay. So you referenced that one of the women that used to be deep in addiction with you, someone that you had created some soul ties with because of the lifestyle you were both living,
Yeah.
had just implored you to just give something new a try. Would you reference that as being your turning point to where you
Yes.
realized something had to change?
Yes.
So walk us through, if you can remember, that first time walking into that meeting, since she put you on the path of walking to some random door in the city meeting, and you're coming out of these years of I can do it myself, I don't have no problem,
Yeah.
I can do anything I want to do, just put my mind to it. What was it like walking into that environment for the first time?
I I wasn't sure. It's like I like I'm not in the clear by any means. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, it's something I have to work on every day. Like, you know what I mean? But like that was 2 years ago, right? And when I saw her at a Thanksgiving for our Friendsgiving that a mutual friend had thrown, and so we, she talked to me about it. You know what I'm saying? And even that night I went and got high. You know what I'm saying? But like I called her maybe like a week later and said, "Hey, I was thinking about going to one of those meetings." And she looked it up and she sent me the address of a meeting near me, right near where I was. And she said, "Go there at this time." You know what I mean? And just tell them that you know what I'm saying. Just be honest with them. So I show up to this church, and and this older Jewish white guy, you know, he's like, "Welcome," with arms wide open, and gives me a big old hug. He was in a cat like a little cast, and he gives me a big old hug, and everybody was so nice. Like they welcomed me like just like hey, like you never have to do that again. Like you don't like if you don't want to, you don't ever have to. You know what I mean? And they showed me where I can go, where I can find a meeting just like that one anywhere I am. You know what I mean? And um, I stayed and I listened and I liked what I heard, and I wasn't sure if I could do it. Wasn't sure if I could do it. You know what I mean? But I was willing to like maybe go and check it out. So I started going to meetings, you know, and I made it about 10, 11 days, and then I relapsed. Well, I didn't relapse, I just used again. You know what I mean? Because relapse would, I mean, imply that I had some kind of recovery, which I didn't.
Okay, so just so that we're clear for those of us that aren't privy to that, what is the difference between a relapse and just using again?
Well, you relapse when you have recovery, and then you use again. But if you're not working on recovery is more than just not using drugs. Drugs are just a symptom of the addiction. You know, recovery comes from like working on yourself spiritually and improving who you are. You know what I'm saying? How you deal with the world and life. You know what I'm saying? And your relationships. You know what I'm saying? And like making yourself into a better person, so your character defects don't just like you're not just character defecting all over everybody. You know what I mean? You're actually like living a spiritual program. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm in a 12-step program. I work a 12-step program. I'm sorry, I live a 12-step program. You know what I mean? So, like as I'm living these things, these principles that I'm being taught by other people who are who are further along in their recovery than I am. You know what I'm saying? Some of them 40, almost 50 years into it. As I'm taking their suggestions, because my suggestions suck. Things that come out of this brain right here lead me to smoking dope. You know what I'm saying? And doing all kinds of crazy shit. You know what I mean? So when I take their suggestions and I start living the spiritual principles of the program, the fellowship that I'm part of, you know, like I become better. Now it doesn't mean that the disease of addiction isn't alive and well. The disease is alive. You know, and if I as soon as I like it can take just like that. You know what I'm saying? I can be around the wrong person, see the wrong thing, hear the wrong thing, and and once I start thinking, my thinking starts changing. Then like next thing you know, I can create an obsession in my mind. And as soon as that obsession hits, I don't care if I have used or not. It is over. It is over. I will use.
Mm. Okay, thank you
So
for that
yeah, so
clarification.
that's the difference. But if I'm not working in that program,
Hmm.
then I'm just holding on. I'm just abstaining until I use the next time, because I will use the next time. But when I have recovery, I don't have to use. But I might, if I make the decision to use anyway, that's a relapse.
Got you. So at some point, you do move into a recovery status because you've referenced relapse a
Yeah.
couple times already. Talk to us a little bit about what in your mindset changed that caused you to want to embrace a program, and then just for the viewers that aren't privy to what happens at these programs, what kind of things? Because we hear 12-step programs, not that you have to list all 12 things, but what is the environment like when you go in and you're working the program?
Well, so you know, working a program is really something that you do with what we call a sponsor. You know what I mean? They like going to meetings is just going to meetings. You can go all the meetings you want to. You know what I'm saying? And some people, I don't know, maybe they can stay clean like that. I cannot. You know what I'm saying? I need to have somebody who can because I lie to myself. You know what I'm saying? I am an expert liar to myself. You know, and I need somebody to tell me when I am full of shit. You know what I'm saying? I need somebody who is not afraid to say, "Hey, you're fucking crazy." You know what I'm saying right now? With the things that you're thinking right now are stupid. You know what I'm saying? Don't do this. Don't do that. You should probably think about doing this. You know what I mean? And I take those suggestions. You know what I mean? And living the like working a program, working a 12-step program. You know what I mean? You're being guided through this by your sponsor. You know what I mean? So it's really between you and him. You know, and at meetings is where you share about your things that you're going through in life, and you connect with other people. You know, and the fellowship is really what gets you through the process. You know what I'm saying? Your sponsor teaches you, like guides you specifically on like how to like get these things out of you. You know what I'm saying? So you realize things about yourself, you know, and that connection with your higher power, and maybe with a little bit of guidance from your sponsor, can help guide you to be into being a better person.
Okay, interesting. So let's stick with the sponsor real fast, just so we can educate the viewers. Is it mandatory for a sponsor to have been a substance abuser themselves?
Absolutely.
Okay. And the reason why I'm asking that is because you've stated that this not necessarily the drug that is the driving force, it's the addictive behavior. So could
Mm-hmm.
someone have had an addictive behavior in something other than hard substance abuse or alcoholism help someone that is battling through drug and alcohol addiction?
I mean, so technically you can, right? But like my boy Chris Rock say, you can also drive your car with drive a car with your feet, but it ain't a good idea.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You probably could do it, but why would you? You like when you're like your sponsor. That's just somebody that you're gonna tell everything about yourself to. They're gonna basically see you spiritually naked. You know what I'm saying? And so this is going to be somebody that you want to understand, which like somebody who doesn't really understand like that drive. You know what I'm saying? On this side of addiction, there's certain things that I understand that you can never understand. I can explain it till I'm blue in the face, but you may be able to like feel like think relate it to other things that maybe you've been through, but you can't understand like completely. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't know what those feelings are. You know, and when it comes to choosing a sponsor, you want somebody that can like really relate to you. Me anyway. That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
As far as other people go, I'm not sure.
And the reason why I asked you that is because it appears that being a sponsor like falls under the umbrella of mentorship and like coaching,
For
right?
sure it
And
does.
so for those individuals that related to like sports coaching in particular, like it's not necessarily mandatory for the coach to have been a player of the sport so long as they have been steeped in that particular sport enough and they understand the science of it. And so mentorship and being able to guide people to make better thoughts and make better decisions, excuse me, and to talk with those thoughts you've been talking about that you said like they consume your brain if you allow yourself to talk yourself into it. There's a word for it. It escapes my mind right now to come back, but I just wanted to make sure that people, again, the assumption is that drugs and alcohol and all the other abuses have been around so long that people should have a good understanding of it. But the reality is that it's one of those things where, like for myself, for a long time I stayed away from that because I seen the horrors of it. But staying away from it didn't lead to me educating myself on it. So I developed my own little misconceptions and my own assumptions about what the lifestyle had to have been like because all I'm using is the eyeball test. Now, we know that of the five senses, your eyes are the least reliable. But I think that most people, when we think about substance abuse or we think about addiction, we're thinking about what we see and then we internalize that into how we feel. So I wanted to make sure that from coming from someone that's been on that side, if you felt like there's a science to it or if it's something where relativity is the key. So it sounds like you're saying relativity
Relativity is
is
key.
the
There ain't
key.
no, there's no science to it. Everybody is different. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's different, and you that's why it takes the fellowship. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, what I read this every single day, and like the exact words are fleeing me, but there's a reading that we do that basically says for the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel. You know what I'm saying? And really that is the like the truest thing that I've ever heard. You know what I'm saying? The therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel. There is nothing that equates to that. One addict helping, like you have people who are addiction counselors who like are not addicts. You know what I'm saying? And they counsel people in addiction. They studied addiction and they help people. You know, but the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel. That's the greatest. That's what you like. You still gonna need a sponsor. You're still gonna need a sponsor who is an addict like you. You know what I'm saying, or that can understand you and help walk you through this process. You know.
Yeah. Okay. So, um, another question, another thing that I am curious about, and just use your experience to kind of guide you with this question. What are there, if any, big misconceptions about addiction?
Hmm. Hmm.
As you're thinking, think
Yeah.
about. Oh, sorry not to
Okay.
interrupt you, but I'm thinking what most people think is, well, there's been enough people that have been addicted, so why do people even bother going down like that? You understand? I'm pretty sure you heard that before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, listen. I think that mode of thinking is so cute. You know, it's so cute, and it's like or when people say, "Well, why don't you just not do it?" Like, and and those are people that haven't experienced the other side. That's the naivete of of not like that dragon. You know what I'm saying? That gorilla that's inside of you that wants to kill you while it makes you feel good. You know what I mean? That wants to destroy your life, and like it's like nothing ever that you ever go through unless you have done it. You know, unless you have felt it. You know, not everybody that uses is an addict, but that drive is like no force that you can ever. You know what I'm saying? Really, you can't control it. You know, excuse me. Like like our first step is that I'm powerless over addiction. You know what I'm saying? Is I came to realize that I'm powerless over addiction. That means that I'm like I can't control it. The only way that I can gain control of it is to surrender and to say I wave the white flag and I know that I have to by all means necessary not put any mind altering substances in me. You know what I'm saying? That's the only control that I have. As soon as I engage in it, I have lost control. Addiction is in control. You know, and that's why you can't just stop or just, you know what I mean? Because the drug is really what's in control.
And that makes sense because for me, as a child growing up, one of the things that caused me to harden my heart to my mother at a period and point in time is me feeling like, and maybe it was influenced by those times when I would see her go through what you're saying, which is those cycles. You'll have a few days where you just have a few good days, and it looks like you're turning the corner, and the next thing you know, you fall back into that same pattern of abuse. But I used to always, the thing that really, really hardened my heart to my mother was I used to always say out loud in my mouth, if she loved me enough, why would she not put the drugs down? And I even said it to her face. You know, there's three times in my mind I can remember, three different times before the age of 16 that I stood in front of my mother crying and pleaded with her and just begged her to just try and get some help. And I asked her to her face, why am I not important enough to you for you to leave this alone? Can you not see how this is impacting me? And as you can imagine, that broke her down and that got her into that space where I'm sure you've been before. You said you were on the phone crying in the county jail talking to the children, where you're like, I can see what this
Mm-hmm.
thing is happening. But if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that even though on the inside you have this moral compass that's like, I could be doing better, I
Yeah.
know people that are dependent on me to do different. You're saying that the drug itself has this hold on you that is unbreakable.
Well, it's not unbreakable, but so there's that, and remember that your mother's a woman. You know what I'm saying? And I believe that women have. This is just my belief. This is not based in any kind of science or anything. This is just from living life. I feel like women go through a lot of trauma. They go through a lot of trauma. And there are things that may have, you know what I'm saying? You know your mother as being your mother. But before you came along, like it's possible that she's been through like some things that you don't know what she felt inside about herself. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes like it becomes hard to even love yourself. And when you don't love yourself, how is she supposed to effectively love you? You know what I'm saying? When she's been, if she's been through situations where she's been, you know what I'm saying, abused and abused, not just abused, but abused and then not validated,
Yeah.
that makes you feel like you are worth nothing. So how is she supposed to feel like she is worth nothing and treat you like you're everything?
That's real, and just full transparency because that's how you and I rock. I was able to gain a real clear picture of the historical events that took place in my mother's life that drove her down that road, and it makes sense now. She was literally betrayed. She was victimized, a product of sexual abuse and incest as a little girl. She had me when she was 13 years old. And upon finally confessing and telling her mother, who was supposed to protect her, that these things were going on with men in the family and friends of the family, she was forced to suppress that. She was forced to deal with that at 13 years old
Mm-hmm.
and deal with the fact that my grandmother, and I understand as a parent, my grandmother advised for her to get an abortion, but at that point in time, she still had enough resolve to say, no, I'm going to fight and have my child, right? And so when I'm hearing you say that it starts with what's going on internally, the way in which we can love others is definitely going to be a mirror of how we see ourselves, right? And so for you to allude to and illuminate the fact that in the addiction, presently within an addict's body, if I'm hearing you correctly, you understand that you have a cause and effect on people, but what's really, really keeping you maybe chained to that is wherever you are in your own personal burdens.
Yeah.
And so the drugs just keep you isolated in that cocoon. Is it kind of like that?
It can, yeah. The drugs definitely keep you isolated, for sure, for sure. Like I don't know too many people who, I like, I can't think of anybody who, uh, like, uses drugs and drugs doesn't isolate them. You know what I'm saying? Because drugs are not accepted. You know what I'm saying? They're stigmatized. You know what I mean? And I think that I don't believe that they should be stigmatized. Drugs, okay, drugs should definitely be stigmatized, but I don't think that addiction should be stigmatized. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that people like you have all kinds of battles to fight, and you don't know what's going on inside of a person. Everybody is different. You know what I'm saying? And it's unfortunate that, like, you know to have to, like, ask these questions, you know what I'm saying, like late in the game, and not be able to get like solid truths, you know what I'm saying? But like, I feel like you have enough clues to like uh to kind of like, because what you're saying is powerful, you know, that she was hurt as a little girl, damaged, broken, and not fixed, and she spent all them years trying to fill a hole and numb pain, and be everything that, like, untreated, excuse me, untreated, you know what I'm saying, and and had to go through life like that, you know what I'm saying, and probably led astray, and then re-led astray, and then led astray again, you know what I mean, and then felt guilt and shame for how she no, she didn't. I don't think that she, that's nobody. I don't think it aspires to be a bad mom.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think she just said, "This is what I want to do." I think that she made excuses, just like I do. Made excuses and believed her own bullshit for a while. You know what I'm saying? And numbed it with chemicals. And then you know what I'm saying, when she realized she realized what she was doing, she felt that pain.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And wished she could do something about it, but only knew how to numb it.
Yeah. And that's powerful. And so I want to take this time. I mean, we're flowing. Everything is going according to how I'm hoping that this thing unfolds. But here's the point where you and our lives intersect.
Yeah.
And I want to take the time to kind of ask you a question that I've never ever really had the courage to ask you before.
Okay.
All right. And this is all about the spirit of looking at addiction and also being able to maybe get rid of some of the misconceptions and humanize the people that are caught in addiction.
Okay.
For those of you that don't know this, David and I were really, really close friends. We were actually neighbors. He lived right across the street from me. And there was a point in time when my ex-wife went on deployment, and my son at that point in time was about to be 10 months old. And so I was panicking because I was always been a quick study. I'm a book kind of person. I've always been a chaser of knowledge, a lover of knowledge. And so I was reading books, what to expect, what you're expecting, what to expect from a toddler. I had this whole little library, a little shelf in my library that was dedicated to rearing children. But when it sunk in that my ex-wife was going to be leaving the country and she was going to be leaving me with a 10-month-old baby, I got a little bit desperate. My mother and I had been estranged previous to that, but would just talk here and there. And, out of a little bit of desperation, I didn't really have anyone else. I remember having a conversation with my ex and her saying, well, what about your mom? This might be a great opportunity for you all to be able to come together for something positive. You might be able to really sit down with her and kind of figure out how and why things went the way they went with your childhood. But then, because she's been in and out of your life, this will give her opportunity to be a grandmother and then maybe be able to relive some of those steps of having you, and she can put a little bit of fat on your head. And so I was a little reluctant, but I was like, I've always said that I want to be able to get to the bottom of these mysteries in my family. So I humbled myself and I called, tracked her down, and asked her. I didn't even ask her what her station in life was at that point. I just called an aunt that called another aunt and found out, okay, she's at this place. I'll call her. I'm gauging to see if she's sober when I talked to her, and she seemed to be sober. So we had a couple conversations, and I finally was like, "Hey, well, what do you think about this? I'm not sure if there's ever going to be a way for me and you to repair our son mother relationship, but I did have fond memories and was very, very thankful that my grandmother stepped in and took me so I wouldn't have to go to foster care.
Mhm.
So, how would you feel about let's just put all that other stuff behind us and just take this opportunity to be a grandmother, right? And
Mhm.
see if that can create some sort of redemption. And so she was living up in Seattle, Washington at the time, and I had her come down. She came down, and the assignment was I got out of full time active duty, and so I'm going to school full time. So the assignment was, hey, go ahead and school grandson. Go ahead and watch grandson while I take classes in the daytime. I'll come back and I'll be there in the evening. We can sit and kind of patch things up, see and figure out, have a meeting of the minds and see how we can kind of get this back on track. And she consented to that. And so she came down and, my son, your daughter, one day apart, we decided we're going to have a birthday party together, their 1 year birthday, do it as big as we could do at that point in time. And by that point in time, if you recall, your ex-wife had her father come and stay with you, and I kind of at first thought that was a cool thing because at least my mom would have someone around her age. I believe he was a few years older, but just somebody that she can hang out with, connect with. She didn't have to just be grandma all day. And so we had the birthday party, and it went off without a hitch. Here's my question to you that I never really had the courage to ask you. You recall when you had to kind of like make that decision and make that little walk across the street to knock on my door
Yeah.
that day? And you knock on the door. I open the door, and by this time, me and you've been knowing each other a good 4 or 5 years, so I kind of know you, and
Yeah.
and you're a real, real cool dude. I've also known you in tense moments, but the look on your face, caught me off guard because we've never really had that kind of energy before. And you said, "Hey, man," I said, "Hey, you got a minute?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" We standing in the doorway. I didn't even have the presence of mind to say, "Hey, brother, come on in, have a seat." It was just so abrupt. It kind of threw me off because we had just had the party and everything's cool. And you said, "I just want to talk to you for a second." And I gave you my full attention, and you expressed to me that my mother had indeed approached you and your ex-wife and asked to purchase drugs from you guys
Yeah.
while she's living right across the street with me, and you guys know the assignment.
Mhm.
My question to you, because I tried my best to keep it G, I tried my best to just, that moment that you said those things to me, it took me immediately back to what I experienced as a child, which was humiliation, which was feeling powerless, which was hurt. And I feel like I tried my best to keep it together. My question to you is, how did you feel leading up to making a decision to come across the street? And then after you told me that and I said whatever I said, how did you feel on that walk back to the house? What was your impression of that whole thing?
You know, I probably looked some kind of way because, like, man, I knew I was about to break your heart. You know, and my wife at the time, she was like really like she really felt for you. She was like she was like she was like fuck that, like I was like I don't care if you got $1 million, lady, like you know what I mean,
Yeah,
like go on somewhere with that, you know,
yeah,
uh, and uh, and she was just like, you know what, she said, I understand, um, you when I met you, you didn't really talk about your mom. You know what I'm saying? Like it
mm,
wasn't like, and she was like, I understand, I get it, I get it. She said, I understand completely why he probably felt the way that he felt before. You know what I mean? And I it, the reason why I came over there is because it was more important for me to tell you and because she's watching a child. You know what I'm saying? By herself. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Thank you
And
for
then she's
that.
and then she and then she's drinking and shit and all this other, you know what I mean? And you know, like, you know, and me and Akila didn't get on like that. You know what I mean? Even though we veered off the path later, during that time, we were just, you know what I'm saying? We were regular people, you know what I'm saying? Regular military people. We, you know what I'm saying? Worked during the week. On the weekend, we went to the club and we, you know what I'm saying? Got babysitters and all that stuff, you know what I mean? But, uh, but you know, like I know your standards were higher than mine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I knew that this was not like this was not in the Mosby household. This is not like this is like this is definitely not kosher. You know what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
needed to tell you. You know, and after I told you, like I I I knew you felt kind of embarrassed, and like I hated that you felt like that. Wanted to like ask you, but you know when I don't know if you notice this about yourself. You feel like when you feeling that way, you're like
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Nobody in,
Yeah.
nobody in, everything is fine.
That's the defense mechanism for
Yeah, you
sure.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
You're like everything's fine. You know what I'm saying? You know, I see. You know,
Yeah.
and like I just didn't know what happened until for a little while until you told me like finally, you know what I'm saying, whatever that she finally, you know what I'm saying, you came to the resolution like
Yeah.
it's time to go.
Yeah, man. First, man, I don't think I mean, I did tell you thank you at the door, man, but that was more of a okay, this is how we have to end this conversation because
Things are
as a
going on,
as a
yeah.
child, I had broken a million pieces a thousand times, and that was grounding me in to powder at this point, because I was thinking I've given so much grace with this addiction that she's battled. And I was never in a position really to ever have any influence over that. I made my appeals. I remember my grandmother and I tried to trick her. We went out to eat one day and just pulled right up into a little inpatient treatment center inside of the parking lot. And once she finally realized what was what, she got fired up. And as a result, she dipped out the car and was out on
Oh,
feet,
you
like I'm
trying to
out.
ambush her?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, people that don't know and
Yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah, yeah,
understand
yeah,
the addiction, we just think
yeah,
that it's simple, things like showing up at an outpatient treatment center
yeah.
and
Hey,
just
why don't you
walking
go
in.
in here?
And I
Yeah.
blame that on Lifetime movies, man, because we must have seen a Lifetime movie where that worked with some other people, but that ain't
Well,
really,
they break down
yeah.
crying. They're like,
And then,
okay, I'll
yeah, and then you
go.
walk in holding
You know,
hands and you
yeah.
sign in and hug. That wasn't my reality. But the
Not
thing
with a
that
real addict. They gonna you got something coming. Yeah.
right, and so the thing I wanted to fill you in on, brother, the within 2 days I had her on a train out of there.
Yeah.
Bam. The Although we had an opportunity, and I feel great about this, I'm gonna say this before I tell you what happened. I had an opportunity to gain a clear understanding of what she was up against, and it gave me empathy towards her to understand that there was no way she could have been anything but what she was for me based on what was taken from her, what was stripped from her, what the people around her allowed her to suffer and endure by herself. And in this day and age, they say things like gaslighting. Like the sum of her life was her screaming at the top of her lungs to the people that were supposed to protect her the most, and them telling her it's not happening,
Mm-hmm.
or this is a stigma, this is a
Unvalidated.
taboo.
Yeah.
Don't talk about it because you're gonna embarrass us,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the day that she got on the train and left Oxnard, California, off of 4th Street, she has never ever laid her eyes or spoken to my son again, and has never met my daughter ever in her life until the day that she passed.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't because of that day in particular, but it was an outgrowth of that day, because from that day forward that I sent her on her way and she went back up to where she was at, and she decided, to kind of cover it up. She told people she had medical stuff that she had to do, and that's why she had
Mm-hmm.
to come back, because I'm sure part of hiding the addiction is you got to be on the fly, be able to make some good smoke screen decisions
Oh
and
yeah,
tell people everything.
you
Yeah.
lie, yeah.
So I told her I won't ever accept her to be in my children's life unless and until she's willing to get clean, go into 90 days minimum inpatient treatment center, and then we'll see. And at that point in time, there was 3 times after that that my ex-wife and I offered to open our home for her to come and do that journey with us, to have somebody, like you said, if you're around people that are in that, it's harder to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But she could never bring herself to do that before she died, and I had a fork in the road for a little while. Low key, I did still have a resentment, like you couldn't do it for me, but now we got 2 more. And by the time my daughter was 13, that was the one of the worst years of my life, because my mother was victimized and her whole life changed when she was 13. And so I looked at my daughter and I'm like, my daughter looks like me. And then I look at myself and I'm like, I look like my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way my daughter could have ever came to me and said anyone did even one of the dozen
Yeah,
things my mother
not
alleged
and still
against the
be
people
breathing.
around her.
Yeah,
And I wasn't going to get up and jump off the porch on that.
yeah,
So it was hard for me to deal with that. And I was like, so I've given you some guidelines that are doable, you know? Not saying just go out and just kick the habit. We know now, I didn't take a couple college classes. I got a little better understanding of substance abuse. But the fact that she just couldn't bring herself to do that frustrated me. But what set me free, and I'm just being 1,000% honest, the thing that I do thank her for is that from the day that she left in that big deception she left me to deal with you and your family and everything, at least she realized that she owed it to me to never do that again. So
yeah.
she didn't come back and half-ass or come back and say I'm gonna do the steps and then work the program and relapse. I think somewhere she just realized she wasn't gonna be able to be that for me, and so she spared me from that ever again. And
Yes,
that's the thing
yeah.
that caused me to say
That was an act of
I'm
love.
going to I'm going to absolve everything
Yeah.
that used to weigh on me. That was the single most revelation, and her and I had conversations about that prior to her death. And that was pretty much the only gift that she could have gave to the 10-year-old boy in me, right? And so it's crazy how those degrees of separation, because my life forever changed that day that you came. And when you walked in, you seen my son for the first time since he's been
Yeah.
1 years old. But just wrap your head around it. His grandmother never ever saw him again, and she never even met or. And she's had pictures. We sent her pictures and stuff, but she's never talked to or ever seen her granddaughter. And it was because of what you said. Like it's not so easy to just up and just quit.
No.
You know what I mean?
And I think I feel like shit. I feel like you should not think for a moment that she didn't love you or love them. I think that you should. I don't want to say no because I don't know no, but coming speaking from a father who is an addict, like I feel like I it's my belief that she probably loved you immensely, but knew the wreckage that she caused. You know what I'm saying, or that she causes on a continual basis because she's not. It's not just you. Just I think that she's probably on her. That was her best behavior.
Mm.
What you experienced was her best behavior. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So imagine, you know what I'm saying, what's happening in her life when she's not doesn't have to be responsible, you know. And I think that she just did not want to put you through that again. You know what I mean? You know, kind of like some women, you know what I'm saying? They have children and they know they're not going to get clean. So you know what they do? They take the child to their mamas and they leave. You know, so that they're not hurting that situation. You know what I mean? That's the best act of love and kindness that they can show for that child. Because if they don't, they're gonna fuck that child up. You know what I'm saying? That child's gonna be seeing all kinds of things they shouldn't see or situations that shouldn't be in, and that will happen You know what I'm saying? If you have a mother or father who is an active user and you're in the house with them, more than likely, you know what I'm saying, you're they're gonna end up going through some very serious traumas because of that.
You know, I've never ever considered that. I've never ever heard anyone articulate that way. I've always been on the other side where people are chatty patties and they're talking bad about the female that has gotten pregnant, you know, after it's already been established that she has an addiction that she's battling with. And when you see that the mother or the aunt or someone intercedes and has to take temporary custody of the kids, or the state
Yeah,
says, hey, we're going to take these children away if you can't find someone that is a family member that can take them in. I think the common commentary that happens is, what the hell is she doing having kids? And if she have kids, why is she leaving her kids and abandoning her kids with her parents, right? Another parallel that I'm thinking, and you're helping me and anyone else that's like me. So you're not just helping to tell the story of an addict, brother. You're actually helping us on the other side that could never ever consider this, right? One of the things that used to burn me up about my family members is that, you know, I lived with my grandmother so that I wouldn't have to go into foster care.
mm,
And my grandmother had enough rooms in the house where there was always a cousin or an uncle or an aunt or somebody that was over there staying. And I believe this to be true, when she got enough of them, she would use me as the excuse. She'd be like, well, you know, I got him, so y'all can't stay but so long.
yeah,
But we had thin walls, and my grandmother had a 3-story house, but you could easily just stand on the stairs. I would stand on the stairs and hear family members talking down on my mom or talking
mm,
down on me for my situation. And they'd be like, well, because all of her sisters also battled addiction.
yeah,
Well, I still got my kids. You know, why
mm,
she ain't got Jovan? And why are you protecting him? Like, if something happened to me, you already said you ain't gonna take in everybody else's kids, right? I came from hearing that side of it, and I used to think to myself, just as full transparency, my mother doesn't love me as much as my aunt loves her kids, because they're all smokers. They're all, and this is, how we talk in the street. They're
yeah,
all clucks.
yeah,
But my aunties still had their kids with them. And I used to kind of like despise that a little bit. I'm like, well, so why am I the one, that is being left in the house? But if what I'm hearing, what you're saying to be true, and it makes sense, it lines up, if she knew and understood that there was just too much toxicity and too much for her to carry. And by the way, some of her sisters, had some of the same misfortunes as her, but none of them, to my knowledge, had it to the degree that she had with sexual abuse and incest and all that stuff. So her burden was way heavier. So if you're saying sometimes the biggest act of love is to say, I can no longer put this young person in this context because of all of this stuff that comes along with me. I've never heard anyone say that ever,
yeah,
ever. So thank you for that, because again, like I said, I made my peace with it, but I suspected talking with you, there would still be an opportunity to still, after the fact, be able to have a little bit more healing
mm,
in that. And like I said, I've never ever heard anyone use that perspective that someone could just make a decision that on the outside looks like abandonment or on the outside
yeah.
looks like shirk of responsibility. But it's like, no,
It's really
if
grace.
they're gonna have a fighting chance,
Yeah,
it can't be in this
yeah.
space.
So it seemed like her rejection was really your protection.
Yeah, but a 10-year-old kid cannot, a 12-year-old kid, a 16-year-old kid cannot internalize the external activities and lack thereof and have that kind of wisdom and discernment to be able to connect that,
Yeah,
you know. And so thank you for that, because I'm positive that someone else that's been through something similar that will probably resent the person like, you abandoned me
yeah.
or you left me.
And you know what?
Yeah.
Here's the thing: is that you were a child, you were innocent, you have the right to feel those feelings. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, but as a man, in order for you to grow,
Yeah.
it's good for you to understand the raw human side of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we're all humans, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that means that like Just like you have good intentions, she got good intentions. She just had a like a disease that railroaded her entire life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you know of one incidence of trauma. How many others do you think that you go through when you're dealing with shady people who are hurt just like you, and hurt people? How many instances of trauma do you think times she was re-traumatized and re-traumatized and re-traumatized, and each time it just gets worse exponentially in your mind?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like you know, without treatment, without being pulled out of that and getting into some treatment, I don't understand how like she would have had a fighting chance. You know what I mean?
And that actually, is what ultimately ended up happening, is that she lived the rest of her adult life without actually getting formal, you know, and clinical treatment. And so, even into her last, weeks, months, or what have you, she still, was in battle with that. And to me, that had been the thing that saddened me, because I'm like, sometimes when people are made aware that they only have a certain amount of time, because she didn't just pass abruptly in her sleep. Like, the finality was given to her, and
In
she
advance.
chose to go out on her own terms. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And just the sadness still lies in the fact that without treatment, if I'm hearing you correctly, there's like, except for the anomalies, there's somebody that, had a life altering situation and said, you know what, from that day
Sure.
forward,
Yeah.
I never drank or drugged
Yeah.
or whatever. But for the most part, just talking about the average human being, without there being some sort of real specific treatment programs and support, it sounds like it's not something that a person can genuinely just kick.
Well, I mean, I didn't go into a treatment program, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like also, I feel like she had deeper and different kinds of trauma than I did, and so there could be like being that her. It seems like her trauma started at such a young age and was so violent. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's violent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it was so violent that there was probably some dual diagnosis stuff going on inside of her mind.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just addiction. There probably were some mental issues also. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can you just be a okay, completely sane after all that? You know what I'm saying? So you know what I mean? Like I'm saying, it's entirely possible.
No, that's bruh. I mean, you're hitting all of the nails on the head. I remember, remarks made by her siblings, in her last 10 years or so of her life, and like, oh, she actually trying to get this crazy check. She's trying to run the scam to get SSI,
Yeah, there might not have been no scam
Yeah, I mean, but again,
though.
and I'm not will not at all defend anyone that of their ignorance, but she also wasn't alive in a time where this thing called um, mental health
Health.
was really something that was at the forefront, especially in the black community,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, she was one of many of her siblings that had these traumatic experiences, and to my knowledge, none of them, sought out and got, real treatment. Or, well, no, I take that back. Excuse me. I do have one aunt. I do. She'll kill me if I group her in with everyone else. I have one aunt that understood how vulnerable she had to be, and she worked her sobriety to get herself out of those circumstances, and even went into working in social work to help others, and was part of a nonprofit before she was medically retired, because of a debilitating disease that she has with her stomach, Crohn's disease.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of my aunt that had that experience, none of my aunts or uncles, to my knowledge, ever were like, you know what, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna live a program, like you say, I'm gonna go work a program, and we're trying to figure out how to get out of this. I mean, they just pretty much medicated that way until they passed. And for the ones that are living, you know, far be it for me to say that they're not living functional, healthy lives, but I just am not convinced.
That's so just so you have some perspective.
Hmm.
That's the standard. That's the exception is to get clean and live a lot and to live a life of sobriety, or for lack of a better word, or being to be clean.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, that's the exception. You know what I mean? I know far more people who I just don't contact because I feel like they're probably still out there using, or that have died. You know what I'm saying? Or in prison. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Then I know then who I see on this side, I feel like it's maybe like if I had to give a percentage, I would say like it's probably about 1 or 2% that I know of the
Yeah.
people that I've known from my former life, and now they're actually clean today and living like
That's another thing that you just said that I've never heard before. I think for people that don't ever have the burden of walking in the shoes of an addict, I think that most of them, if they were just to be asked and honest, they would assume that the rule is that if you really want help, you get clean and then you live a clean and sober life, versus what you're saying, in that the exception to the rule of substance abuse is that only the chosen few make it to full sobriety. And it's helping me to actually, because
not the chosen few, the few chose.
okay,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because you have to, like,
yeah.
can nobody make you do this? You have to choose to do this every day.
And so is that why it's so important for a addict in recovery to know every single day they've been sober? Because you've said that you've been around people that have 20, 30, 40 plus years worth of sobriety, right? And in my initial mind is like, well, after you get over the hump and after you're good, maybe a decade or so, after you're like,
You don't
okay,
think about it no
yeah,
more.
you'd be like, hey, that
Nah, I
was just
don't.
a period in my life back when I was, that was just back when I was wild and crazy. But to
Yeah.
be like, I got 40 years, 8 months, and 2 days in sobriety, and there's somebody that's saying that. I've
Yeah.
never understood why they say that.
Because you know why? It's because for people like me, so I can know that it works. Every day I need to be reminded that it works. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That like, because I remember my worst enemy lives inside of my head. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
My biggest enemy, the person that gets me high every single time is right here. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? So and he talks to me all day long. So I need to be reminded constantly that it works. You know what I'm saying? That I'm doing this because I want some of the things that he has. I want some of the peace that he has. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I want him to achieve some of the things that she's done. You know what I'm saying? Look at her. She did this and did that. She abandoned her kids. She was a prostitute. She did this. She did that.
yeah,
And now look, she got her kids back. You know what I'm saying? She has a career. She's doing this. She's doing that. She opened a treatment center of her own. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I that's the reason why, I do know some people who don't count their clean time. You know what I'm saying? And that's them. Like this, like it's a weed program, but you can feel free to work it however you want to. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? The only requirement, you know what I'm saying, to like for membership to be a part of this thing that I'm a part of is the desire to stop using. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? If you want to stop using, you're welcome. However you choose to do it is however you choose to do it. But you're gonna hear some suggestions, and those suggestions come from lots and lots of years of wisdom. You know,
Yeah.
and from my experience, that since I've been taking those suggestions, my life has become better exponentially.
Okay. So this brings me to something that I'm equally as curious about. So let's shift into this process of sobriety and the day to day, maybe for many people, hour to hour, minute
Minute
to
to minute,
minute,
yeah.
second to
Hmm.
second impulse that you have to battle with, right? If having a program or having a sponsor and developing a good um, support system, right? Those things are key. In
Yes.
that, if I were to say, what role can friends and family play in the recovery process, but add after a person has relapsed? What role
Hmm.
can we play? Because clearly people that love you want to be in support, and the attitude is okay. We want to do whatever we can to help you to stay supported so you stay clean. But then you have that relapse, bam, and they become aware of it. I think on this side of the table, the first thing is like, what the fuck? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
When you have a support system in place and you're working the system, but you relapse, what would you expect or ask of people that's supporting you in
You
that
know,
minute?
this is what I because I have, I happen to have some experience in this. you know, I would say, this is my mantra today. My mantra today: lead with light. You know what I'm saying? I would say lead with love. Lead with love. You like don't think for a moment that that person doesn't realize what they've done. They know what they've done. The moment they did it, they knew what they did. You know what I'm saying? And so now the last thing they want to do is feel guilty about it or whatever. I would say you let them know that you love them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And they know where the help is. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And you're glad that listen, I'm glad you're okay. You know what I'm saying? I'm just glad you're okay. You know what I'm saying? But like trying to like grill them about it or you know what I'm saying, this, that, and the other. I leave that for their sponsor. You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying to get deep with them. You know what I'm saying? You know, I would just if they relapsed, then they know where the meeting is. You know what I'm saying? Like me being an addict, I just put it out there. Hey man, if you ever want to go to a meeting, you can just like I'll go with you. You know what I'm saying? I love you, homeboy. You know what I'm saying? Be safe. All right. you
So
know.
is that realization baked into the working a program that you probably will relapse at some point in time, but in case of relapse, break this glass and do this? Is that
Mm.
talked about at all, or is the attitude like, let this be the last day that you've ever engaged in a drug and move forward?
Well, so here's the thing: is that I know people who got clean and never relapsed. You know what I'm saying? Who have lots of years clean and never relapsed. You know what I mean? Who lived, you know what I'm saying, two, three times as longer than they ever did using. You know what I'm saying? Have been clean. And and I don't think it's not something that's baked into it, but I think that it is something that's intuitive. You know what I'm saying? As far as like how you treat people. You know what I'm saying? A saying I hear around, in the rooms is we don't shoot our wounded. You know what I'm saying? You don't kick somebody when they're down. You know what I'm saying? And if that person is down, just offer them love. That's it. You know what I'm saying? It makes more sense to me. Some people, you know what I'm saying, they might break your balls a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like it happens, but it's nothing. There's no standard for it. There's no like cookie cutter standard because cookie cutters can't exist. You know what I'm saying? We have our steps, we have our traditions, you know what I'm saying? And we have the fellowship. You know what I mean? Those are like guidelines. They're not rules. You know what I'm saying? They're guidelines. So we understand like kind of how to navigate this thing, like a direction that we're going. But everybody's gonna have to work it according to their own life and where they are and what's the things that they've been through and what works for them. Some people are hard hit like me. You know what I'm saying? I needed a sponsor who is gonna call, like who is gonna be. You know what I'm saying? Look, my sponsor told me the other day. You know what I'm saying? In a nice quiet tone, said, "Hey, listen, if you use and you don't call me, I'm gonna fucking kill you." I said, "Okay."
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You know what I mean? I need some, but I understand that he's coming from a place of love, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I need somebody who like I can't just like say anything to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, I have to have somebody who's gonna talk shit to me. You know what I'm saying? Tell me about myself. You know what I'm saying? And from a place of love. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And give me information or an assignment. I get assignments. You know what I'm saying? From
Mm-hmm.
another grown man, I get assignments to hone in on spiritual principles. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I do them. I listen to them because I want to change. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know.
And that makes sense to me, but I want to share with you an alternative standpoint from that I think that lots of folks take that are outside of this process. Because I heard you say that maybe that tough love and being able to give just the right application of truth serum to somebody that has relapsed should be reserved for the sponsor, because the sponsor, if they're worth their weight, should be able to find ways to get that person to really see the gravity and the magnitude of what they did, but then also still have that level of sympathy because they've probably been in that situation,
Yeah.
right? But it's just my belief the people that are family, friends, support system that feel it necessary to go hard when the person relapses is probably because those individuals are the one that gets the TV stolen, or
Mm-hmm.
gets the purse stolen,
Yeah.
or gets the car broken into, or gets lined up. They get jacked, and they literally have some sort of skin in the game
Yeah.
that perhaps, I'm not saying it, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, maybe there are some addicts out there that have done that to their sponsor, but there's just an assumption that those things are happening to people that are trying to support them outside of that space. And now you're pissed off, you're mad, you're hurt because you don't went out in the line. You maybe done got someone to have faith in this person. You put your word in the line to
Mm-hmm.
get some help, and now they done just what we would consider just fucked it all off.
Yeah.
And now they're back at ground zero, and it seems like the sponsor doesn't have to deal with that part of
Yeah.
it. And so why should the sponsor be the one that is reserved for delivering that truth versus, like you said, the worst thing to do to someone that's relapsed is to be like, oh my god, I can't fucking believe he did that.
No. No, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There can be consequences for relapse. If you listen, if you've given me a place to live, and in the hopes that I'm gonna get clean and I'm not gonna do this and that. Let's say, you know what I'm saying? I done came home drunk and your children saw me. You're like, hey man, I don't want my kids to be seeing all this. It's not the kind of household I run. You give me another chance. I come in, something comes, $40 comes up missing out of your wallet. You're like, hey man, you know what I'm saying? I know you did it, but you of course I'm gonna lie about it. Okay, you let it slide. It's only $40. You know what I'm saying? And then you know what I'm saying, I get clean, I start doing the good again, and then you notice I start getting high again, and then you say, hey man, I cannot have you in my home any longer. That is a consequence of relapse. That is a consequence of use. And like it's that's like something that people happens to people every day, and you are not wrong for protecting yourself from it. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean that you don't have love for me,
Yeah.
right? When I say love, I don't mean anything goes. Let this person off the hook. You know what I'm saying? You are still responsible for your actions. You know what I'm saying? If I don't care how high I was, if I kill somebody, I'm going to jail for murder. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like you have to, like basically, you can say those things, right?
Yeah.
If you wanted to, but if you want effective change in them, I would I would set the boundary, and I would just implore them to go get help elsewhere. You know what I'm saying? And stand by that boundary. Like, hey, I can't have you here. You know what I'm saying? Listen, I love you. I wish you would get clean. This though, I cannot have.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? And they're gonna they're gonna know all the implications of everything in between. You know what I'm saying? They don't need nobody to spell it out for them. even if they ask you to. You know what I'm saying? They're, you know what I'm saying? Like addicts do all kinds of funny shit. You know what I'm saying? They act like they don't know they know. You know what I'm saying? Just, you know, I would say just to stick by your guns and, you know what I'm saying? And be like if you have love for this person and you want them to change, I would lead with love and say, hey, listen, I love you, I care about you, but these things right here, I cannot deal with because it's damaging me and my house, and you know what I'm saying, and you gotta go. That's just it. You know what I mean? And I hope and I pray that you get the help that you need, but I cannot give it to you. You know, because it's especially if you are not an addict, it is very hard for them to believe that you relate to them and what they're going through. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, we instantly feel judgment from people who don't use. You know what I mean? Because we know we're doing something that is worse than what you're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And that makes total sense. Let's pivot to the part of addiction and part of the sobriety that I don't think that really gets enough light. And I want to pose it to you in a form of a question, and you tell me first whether you agree or disagree, and then tell me why. So let's pivot to the redemptive process, right?
Okay.
Because part of the working and living the program is that you have to be willing to be redeemed by those should they choose to give you another opportunity to make amends for the things that you have done or didn't do while you were in the throes of your addiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that's somewhere in, you know,
Yeah, it is.
in the process. So from the redemptive standpoint, I'm going to say a statement. You tell me whether you agree or disagree, and then tell me why. If a person that becomes an addict raises hell or hurts, harms a person over a 5 year period of time while they're in their addiction, they should be willing to actually have that same amount of time or greater of trying to redeem themselves before they can actually count on being accepted back by that person. Do you think that it should be a balancing scale? You tricked off, you hurt people for 5 years, so it might take 5 years through this journey of redemption just to gain back their trust? Or do you think that the two shouldn't be that equivalent?
Oh no, I agree that you should that I agree. I agree with the form with the first. You know what I'm saying? That you should expect that, like, if I was, you know what I'm saying, doing X, Y, and Z for however long, that like some people might forgive you fast, but I can't. I ain't got no control over how you feel or how I may have hurt you. I may not. I wasn't being mindful. I may have hurt you in ways that I never knew. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the best thing that I can do is what we call a living amends. You know what I'm saying? And the best thing that I can do is, you know what I'm saying, let you see the change in me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I haven't come to the step where I'm making amends to family and friends and other people. I haven't come to that step. You know what I'm saying? And my first sponsor told me, you know what I'm saying, I asked him, you know what I'm saying, he said, no, don't apologize for nothing right now. You're just gonna fuck it up. You're just gonna make it worse. You know what I'm saying? People don't want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sorry, oh, I'm sorry, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. They don't want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? Just do the best that you can right now. You know, and but you know, I have to be understanding that if I am the perpetrator of pain, you are allowed to feel that pain. I can't tell you not to feel the pain when I gave it to you, when I inflicted the pain. You know what I'm saying? That don't make no sense. You know what I'm saying? And I can't tell you when to stop feeling the pain. You know what I'm saying? You tell me when you stop feeling the pain. You know what I'm saying? Only thing I can do is stop inflicting it and try to do the best that I can to soothe it.
Yeah. And that definitely makes sense. I'm just reflecting. I'm thinking there's just so many instances where a an addict has multiple siblings, right? And all it takes in this equation is for, like you pointed out, there might be that one sibling that's a lot more forgiving and believes that the best thing that you can do in order to move on is to forgive that person. I've seen it play out where then that person will guilt the other person that's not ready to just come to the table with that and just let bygones be bygones. And so we
That's an
can.
untreated person.
Yeah.
It ain't somebody who just the fact that of somebody using guilt in order to like that's, you know what I'm saying, that's not that's somebody who isn't living through, that's somebody who's living through their ego, you know what I'm saying, and
Yeah.
was trying to gain a result to feed their ego, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Once you shatter that ego, you know what I'm saying, then you're able to be humble and have humility, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? And what's humility? You know what I'm saying? It's not thinking less of me, it's thinking of me less. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking about you more. I want for you to be okay. You know what I'm saying? So when you come from a place of like wanting for the next person to be okay, then manipulation and all of that shit is foreign. That's not what you're in it for. You know what I'm saying? I'm in it for healing. You know what I'm saying? And I can't force healing. I can only be available for you for whatever it is that you need. That's the only thing I can do. I can't. There's nothing I can do about anything that I've done in the past.
Yeah. Okay. So, um, here's where I want to, kind of put a little bit of truth to power as we get a little closer to wrapping this thing up, right? So, to this point, we've actually looked at your personal story, the moment that you chose to try that drug for the first time. We talked about how anyone, the addict and everyone else that's impacted and affected, can kind of be better suited understanding addiction for what it is, and then still recognizing that there is a human inside of that dysfunction. And then we talked about the challenges and the stigma that comes along with substance abuse, primarily from those of us that are on the outside looking in and can't necessarily understand or wrap my head around the perspectives that you all are taking from the inside looking out, just not having that relativity factor, right? Um, Now I want to talk about the hope and the advice part of it, right? Um, what advice would you give to someone that's currently struggling, A, with substance abuse and has yet to take that first step, whatever it is? But then after you do that, can you follow up by giving some advice to someone that has started to live the program but has relapsed at least once?
Okay. I'm going to start by saying that I don't know anything. You know what I'm saying? I am a nomad in this journey who is hooked into a fellowship, and I'm being held up. You know what I'm saying? The only reason why I'm walking clean is because I'm being held up by the people in this fellowship. You know, and so what I would say to somebody who wants to who is in active addiction, who wants to get clean, I would say, uh, be realistic with yourself. You know what I mean? Look at your life and see if you can make the decision to walk into a meeting on your own, of a meeting of your choice. There's a lot of different fellowships out there. You know what I'm saying? You know, if I you know you if you like to if you're able to look up a meeting online and to decide to walk into a meeting under your own power, you know what I'm saying? I would say to do that. And now, if you look at it, if you only think about it but you never do it, you should realize that you probably need treatment. You know what I mean? And you need to, and the only way that you're going to get clean is if you are put into a facility and and shed some of that away. And I would suggest that you do it because once you are, there's so much freedom. There's so much freedom in not having like the chaos of addiction and everything you do to yourself, like weighing on you every single day. You know what I mean? And you start realizing that the shit that you know, like you'll be so much, you'll feel so much better. You know what I mean? By doing that. You know, by like starting to actually put forth the effort. You know, it it's not necessarily something that's easy. Nothing in life is easy. You know, but if you can survive out there on the streets, you know what I'm saying, hustling and trying to and almost killing yourself every time you use, you can do this. You can do this for sure. You know what I'm saying? You just got to pull your shoes up and do it.
And what about for those that have made that first step and have has tried to work the program, but they've
And relapsed.
relapsed? Yes.
I would say this. I would say this. You know where the help is. Come on back home. You know, come on back home, because we all falter and there's nothing but love here. I've been through the same thing. I thought that people were gonna think, oh, this guy isn't shit. He's not serious. He's playing game. This guy again, he's taking another white key tag. You know what I'm saying? He's, like everybody's gonna know. And I even lied. I even went back to meetings and lied. You know what I'm saying? Bald face. Oh, I'm perfectly fine. Just got high yesterday. I'm perfectly fine. I'm perfectly fine. And them lies just ate at me and ate at me and ate at me and killed my spirit a little bit every time until I just use again and then use again and then use again. And the next thing you know, I disappear from meetings and I'm just using. You know, I like I would say, just rip off the band-aid, walk back in, you know what I'm saying, and accept, and you're gonna find that it's not so bad. You know what I'm saying? It's not bad at all, really. You know, we want you. We want you with us. You know, on this side of things. You know, that's what I have to say.
Okay, and to clarify for us that are out of the loop, what is a white key tag?
Hi.
Because you just referenced it.
So, in various different fellowships, they have, we give out key tags or medallions, you know what I'm saying, or what they call chips, you know what I'm saying, for various amounts of clean time, and these milestones. The reason why you keep track of the days, because it keeps you accountable. You know what I'm saying? Without accountability, I'm doing anything. You know what I'm saying? I need accountability. So the key tags. When you have 0 to 29 days, you take a white key tag. You know what I'm saying? So now, if you had 2 years clean, you know what I'm saying, and then you relapse, you have to, you know what I'm saying, like a part of being accountable, you know what I'm saying, and being responsible, is getting up in front of everybody and living in truth and saying, boom, take that white key tag. You know what I'm saying? And everybody, and you know what? You're going to be met with so much love. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get the biggest round of applause and, whoa, yeah, welcome back. You know what I'm saying? And people are going to be, because we know that you could die. You know what I'm saying? We know that you can die. I know people who did not do fentanyl and smoked a bowl of crystal and died from a fentanyl overdose. You know what I'm saying? So you can, like we just happy that you're back. You know what I'm saying? We happy that you're here. You know.
So does that mean that when you take the white key tag, your sobriety resets back to zero?
Yeah, effectively yes. Once you your clean date is the first day. Well, the way that I count mine is the first day that I woke up not high.
Okay. So it's not like boxing where you can have 20 wins and one draw and one
Not
loss.
cumulative.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not cumulative.
Okay.
No.
So no one that's living their programs should say, I got 20 plus years of sobriety with just one relapse. They wouldn't say that.
No, no. You have your clean time
Yeah.
is your clean time. That's how many consecutive days that you have.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's consecutive clean time. You know what I'm saying? Now you might have had some clean time before,
Yeah.
but your program that you was working with that back then, you relapsed with that program.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So now you start over and you know, you try to do things like a person like me. I'm gonna try to do things differently. You know what I mean? Because usually it starts long before you put the drug in you. It starts long before that.
Yeah, and I heard you say that. I mean, so that's really really etched into your psychology at this point. And and it sounds like it's knowledge of self. It's like being able to get to the origin of the thing that kind of helps you to be like, okay, I need to stay away from certain things because I understand. I guess what people would call triggers,
Yeah,
right?
what they call it, people, places, and things.
Yeah,
But that's not enough. And your knowledge of self is only takes you so far because you lie to yourself. You know what I'm saying? I lie to myself and I believe my own bullshit. You know what I'm saying? I make just excuses and justifications. You know what I'm saying? And other addicts, other people in active addiction, they will support my bullshit wholeheartedly. You know what I'm saying? And add to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, you're right. You should be able. You Of course you should be able to have a little fun. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, for you to be smoking crystal methamphetamines. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like,
Wow.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
so like, you like while you have knowledge of self, you need to take suggestions from people that know better, because my best thinking got me high. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And the best suggestions that I took from other people led me to meetings. So I need to keep taking those suggestions because my thinking, there's something wrong with it. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
There's something fundamentally wrong with it. You know what I mean? Every day I have to know that the moment that do you know how I know I'm an addict? Because the moment I stop thinking I'm an addict, I feel like I can use drugs. What kind of sense does that fucking make?
yeah. It doesn't make any sense at
You're
all.
not an addict, right?
Right.
Because why?
Because I don't take
You
drugs.
don't use drugs, right?
I don't take drugs.
But if I think that I'm not an addict, I think that I can take drugs.
Yeah,
Like that, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
that's you know what I mean? Like that, like so. I have to not rely on just this right here. I gotta do a lot of praying. I got to connect with my higher power, who I choose to call God. You know
hmm,
what I'm saying? And I have to establish that connectedness, the God of my understanding, not a traditional God. You know what I'm saying? This is personal for me. You know what I'm saying? And only me.
yeah,
You know, and I need to have faith. You know what I'm saying? And to have faith in people. You know what I'm saying? In the fellowship, who want the best for me. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because, like, ain't nobody ain't nobody ever lived this program and like actually lived the program 100% and still relapsed. It hasn't happened. You're not gonna buy you relapse by not living the program. You relapse by stop doing the things that are suggested to you. You relapse by stop going to meetings. You still relapse by stop fellowshipping. You know what I'm saying? You relapse by isolating. You
hmm,
relapse by hanging out with people you're not supposed to hang out with, going places you're not supposed to go to. You relapse by going against the program. But if you go with the program, you are not going to relapse.
mm. That's real. Well, listen. I mean, I'm convinced there's absolutely no way anyone could sit and listen to this testimony from 001 to the end of this that will not come away learning something valuable about addiction, the spirit of addiction, the affliction of addiction, the cause of addiction, the types of things that perpetuate addiction, and even if that's not their lane, they're on the other side, getting a better understanding of the psychology of those who are actually under controlled substances. And then lastly, for anyone that has been battling with addiction, I think, matter of fact, I know the reason why I wanted to do this in particular and to do this with you is because we've moved around in various social circles. And for everything that we have as a difference, you and I have always been bound together by our core set of things that we see the same, see similarly. And so, for a person that is battling addiction, first and foremost, I think you've probably felt this because it's not about what a person says, it's what a person feels. Hopefully, you felt that I've never passed judgment
Oh
on
yeah.
you about the trials and tribulations that you have, and was able to recognize that yes, you were the sum of the decisions that you made, but because I know you in your purest form, I I had faith and I had belief that anywhere within that dysfunction that you're in, the guy that I met back in 1999, 2000, the core of that young man's being was still present, whether it was clouded and covered by all of that darkness and all of those things. I always felt like whenever me and you connected, we always got back to those conversations that we had in Guam,
Yeah. Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah.
And so that never ever gave me the ability to look at you in any other way other than a brother that's down right now.
Mm.
And so anything that I could have ever done, even with just our conversations, in my mind, anything that I could have done to lead towards you at least feeling the love coming from me
Yeah.
was what I was willing to do. And ironically, you know, I was able to do that for you because at some point I came to the point of realizing that that's what my mother would have needed from the people around her, right? And I wouldn't witnessed her not getting it. So on one end I've been so adversely affected by this thing that it hardened me, it toughened me, it isolated me, it made me not have faith in humanity. It caused me to not be able to connect to women, various women, because I was still holding that space that my mother had left voided in me.
Yeah.
But when I became old enough to actually kind of understand what causes people to fall into these things, and I was just thinking about the person I knew in you, and then the person that you had been real enough to expose me to. And I remember the other time we was talking, like when you had got out, you were selling the Herbalife and all that
Mm.
stuff,
Yeah.
and I one of the times I was like, "Hey man, I'm coming to check you out," and I remember hearing the hesitation in your voice, right? Because the way I took it was you wasn't all the way out of that whole thing. And it was
Yeah.
like, but for all intents and purposes, he's been a good dude to me, so I don't even want to even have him anywhere around that.
Yeah, well,
You,
yeah, I'm not sure if I remember exactly the time that you're talking about, so I'm not sure.
yeah, I had
I
purchased some. Like one of the things I did was I purchased some of your product. Like you were
yeah,
selling the Herbalife
yeah,
stuff, and
yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, you know what? I had told my ex-wife, I don't know if I'm gonna use it or not, but that's not important.
yeah,
What's important is my man I got out of the can
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and he's in college.
yeah.
He's trying to do things a legit way. I ain't even bothered to ask you whether or not you was clean or not. I just was happy that you was on the up and up, and so I wanted to support that way.
I was probably good at that point, but there was a there it's like I was good until I wasn't. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
everything, it was very abrupt.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It was very abrupt, and then once, and I also had a few ladies of the night that were living with me. You know what I'm saying? And like sometimes like is I mean your lifestyle is the things that go on and the lifestyle is not like what I'm saying. I don't want to have it isolates you because you don't want to have people, especially that know me. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like I mean, or I could have been getting high. It could have been during that time. I got high. I started getting high after my dad died. Right after my dad died. That's in 2015.
okay,
You know,
yeah,
that's when I really started, and Um, so if it was around that time, then I probably most definitely was like, oh no, you can't come see me. Like,
Yeah,
you know
because
what
I
I'm
mean, you
saying?
never outwardly expressed that, but I'm saying that was the vibe. Because another time that we had carved out that space, me, you, and Dante had got together,
Yeah,
and it was like, hey man, it was nostalgic. That was one of the first times. Actually, that was the first time we had all been in the same space since we was back in the military together.
yeah. Did
And
I disappear after that time that you
yes,
asked? Then I disappeared.
yes,
Yes, I was using. I was high.
yeah,
I was smoking like a broke stove.
yeah. And the reason why I
Yeah,
remember that is because I came back to California. The family and I came back in 2014.
yeah,
And so it was only natural. I'm back, man. You in Cali, I'm in Cali, man. I'm gonna have to check you out because
yeah,
before, I was in Texas and Virginia and all these
yeah,
other places, so we had to just do it remotely.
yeah.
But that still allows me to hold true of what I'm saying to you is that I hope that you genuinely understand that because I knew you at the core, I've never ever judged you based on the things that you've been vulnerable enough to share with me
Yeah.
about yourself. And I understand right now it's baked into your program now to just be able to out of your mouth speak about all the ills because that's part of the whole
Oh no, it's
working through it.
difficult.
Yeah,
It's difficult, but
yeah,
but here's the thing is that like, man, my hope, my honest, like my hope is for someone to hear what like my side of the things and be like and maybe some of their like don't tell nobody, hear me speak my don't tell nobody that, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying, you know what I'm saying, here, but to hear me speak it, and they can say, ah, me too, you know what I'm saying, and they can know that yes, yes, you can be to those depths and to those things, and there is hope. You will, like you can recover. You know what I'm saying? Like, like an addict was in the literature I read, it says that an addict, any addict, even even a wannabe pimp. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? 3-time felon. You know what I'm saying? Jailbird. You know what I'm saying? Street nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Weird. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you wanna say. Even that addict, any addict, can stop using drugs, lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live. You know what I'm saying? And that's 100% facts. You know what I'm saying? And I just want to be an example of that every day.
well, thank you for your candidness. Thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come and sit with your boy and to share this, because all it takes is for one person to be changed by this in some way, shape, or form, either from the standpoint of the addict, and maybe that be the first step of them getting their life back together, or even someone that, like me, had been struggling with how to forgive and how to let go and heal from someone that you feel has betrayed you personally based on their drug usage and their lifestyle that they chose that ultimately had some sort of adverse impact on you, right? That's the goal for us actually putting this on camera, and this is going to be forever captured in something that can
Yeah,
be revisited. And my hope is that 20 years from now, me and you sit down together and we just watch this from go to stop and just remember just how special this moment was,
yeah,
right? Because we've
yeah,
been connecting back and forth on phone, and I came to
yeah,
check you out here and there, but I've never felt as close to you as I feel now.
yeah,
Just understanding exactly, just seeing your face, just seeing the genuine and authentic version of who you are right now
yeah,
is definitely a lot different than Guam 2000,
yeah,
but that same person is present in both of those
yeah,
conversations. And I'm thankful that we can have the ability 25 years later to sit down, what I'm saying, and still have the same amount of love and respect and
yeah,
reverence for one another. So thank you again for being able to share your story and to give me an opportunity to do what I'm going to be doing a lot more of, which is just dealing with real people, talking about real things, and not worrying about monetizing or coming up or for a look on social media. Like just really looking at the fact that we can actually save lives
Yes.
just sitting and sharing and fellowshipping and edifying together. And especially, I'm gonna throw this in because one of the most important things that I identify as is a black man.
Hmm.
For two black men
Yeah.
to be able to sit down and to have this kind of conversation, and
Hmm.
then not be about a look,
Yeah.
and then not be so far out of reach, like, oh, here I'm sitting here interviewing a celebrity, so people think that that's the only way that it's valid.
Yeah.
For two ordinary gentlemen to be sitting here talking about something that could change a person's whole life,
Yes.
that can
I
cause
know it
somebody
can.
to
I
pick up
know it can change your life.
the phone for the first time and say, look, how do we fix this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So again, like from the bottom of my heart, bro, you my guy, 10 toes down. I
Yeah.
appreciate this. This is just the beginning. I'm looking forward, and we haven't name dropped this, but I'm looking forward to seeing you on in your play endeavors. One of the things I want to do for you is, and I'm telling you, let me know when you got that play coming up. I'm going to be in attendance, bro.
Okay.
The very
Yeah.
next
I mean,
one, the very next one that you feel
it's
comfortable
it's
with
like
me
it's coming
being in
soon.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. What
I'm
you mean?
saying,
I do this in front of. I like to act in front of audiences. So
yeah,
you know what I mean. So
yeah.
yeah, for sure. You can.
So
You know, I'll send you
so
the flyer. Some.
I'm saying it'd be the ultimate way for me to be able to say that I'm in support of this version of you. Is hopefully to be sitting there with my beautiful lady on my arm, sitting there and
Yeah.
being like, this dude right here. We call
Yeah.
him Foots. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You know what I'm saying? So with that
Yeah.
being said, folks, hopefully, if you rock with us this long, hopefully you gain something powerful from this.
Yeah.
This is first of many things to come. This is not going to be the last time you see this guy because he's a fixture in my life. And there's so many things that so many pots he got stirring right now that he's trying to bubble up and break through in. And when he
We
becomes
don't
a
see.
better success, I want to be one of those silent people that's like, hey man, I just been rocking with this guy, and no matter where he go, man, I'm with him, right?
Yeah.
As long as we going forward, right? So until the next episode of Off the Record, but on my mind, take care, peace.